Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another in a series of Get Fit and Be Lean live streams on TikTok and also recorded on YouTube. This week, we're going to talk a little bit about hypothyroidism and its relationship to obesity and being overweight. It's a little bit different than some of the other topics that we've covered. Doesn't really involve a direct cause and effect relationship. Thank you very much for joining. Welcome. Good to have you here. And in the past, we've covered some other topics like polycystic ovarian syndrome or hypertension and how they relate to obesity. And in those diseases, there's much more of a cause and effect kind of definite increase in relationship, whereas with hypothyroidism, it's much more indeterminate, and particularly self-efficacy and weight loss. Well, I'm doing it myself, but most people tend to need some help. So hypothyroidism is a condition where this gland that lies alongside your windpipe fails to produce enough of the thyroid hormones to properly modulate your body's general physiology. And it's told what to do by an organ that lays up under here, under your brain, called the pituitary, through a chemical called thyroid stimulating hormone. So how much thyroid hormone do you need? Well, turns out we really don't know. It's measurable. However, the reality is that how much is required for each individual's physiology is really variable. So it's not very effective to measure thyroid hormone on its own. What we tend to do is measure thyroid stimulating hormone that comes from the pituitary. And if that is elevated, we assume that that means there's not enough of a feedback loop coming from the thyroid hormone produced by the thyroid gland to tell the pituitary that everything is okay. And so with the TSH measurement, generally anything over 10 is an indication that the thyroid's not producing enough hormone. And the way that we treat that is with oral thyroid hormone, something called thyroxine. What's up? Welcome. Thank you, Brady. Really appreciate everybody joining. Good to have you guys here. This will be my last live stream scheduled for a couple of weeks. So hypothyroidism, the thyroid is not producing enough thyroid hormone based on the TSH measurement. And this causes all kinds of rather vague symptoms, doing with hair growth and weight loss and general fatigue and those kind of things. And so this is a very common condition. Love kids. Am I Jewish? Boy, that is a really weird question. Do you mean am I Jewish or am I a Jew? Oh man, we're getting all kinds of real scumbags coming in today. That's kind of unusual. I don't really have a moderator today. So it's going to be up to me to kind of get on top of those folks. Yeah, sounds like I do, Brady. And yep, love kids. Got a couple of my own. Anyway, it's important to understand that if you are overweight, it's most likely not because you're hypothyroid. Okay. If you're overweight, you're probably overweight for the same reason that most people are overweight, which is they eat too much and they move too little. And there's a lot of research coming on heartbreak or some type of. Well, that's a pretty complex question. I have a Q&A tab, and I would recommend if you have questions that are off topic of the thyroid hormone, that you put them in there. Cowboys are whipping it up this year, I think. So it's important to understand that thyroid hormone has been an area targeted by people who want to make a lot of claims about their ability to impact things that really don't have that much to do with the thyroid, and in particular, the use of things that are kind of on the edge of whether or not it's really biochemically pure medical treatment, desiccated thyroid hormone, and those kind of things. Thank you very much for the likes. Really appreciate the engagement. Good to have you guys here. And so I want to make it clear that hypothyroidism is a medical disease for which you need to have laboratory studies and which you should have treated by a physician and followed regularly, okay? There's a condition called subclinical hypothyroidism. Remember, I talked about the TSH. If it's over 10, it's obviously not getting the feedback from the thyroid hormone. But there's a kind of a gray area in that 5 to 10. And the question is, optional post-cycle treatment when I choose Clomid or Nolvadex. That's way beyond my ability to judge. Once again, Q&A tabs up there for people who have questions that aren't associated with the hypothyroidism that we're talking about today. So what I'd like to do is just encourage people to discuss this gray area of thyroid stimulating hormone in the 5 to 10 range, to determine whether you have a physician that thinks that this is important for you to have treated, or whether you have a physician who really wants to wait and watch, that kind of thing. So yes, hypothyroidism can affect conception and should be treated if the TSH is above 10. If it's 5 to 10, that's more of a gray zone. Calisthenics routine can be done anywhere, and that's one of the reasons I'm out here, every day making videos showing people doing my calisthenics, because what I want you to recognize is that hypothyroidism is probably not the reason that you're overweight. Okay, if you're overweight, it's most likely from inadequate exercise and excess calories and an energy expenditure and intake imbalance. So they've just come out with a bunch of research a couple of weeks ago where they were trying to say that, this whole idea of moving more and eating less is just fallacy, and they didn't offer any alternatives to that, I can tell you. And the medical treatment for obesity and being overweight can be pretty drastic. Having surgery deranges your internal organs for life and can change your absorption of a variety of different nutrients. Taking medications like the one that was most recently approved, very expensive. And when people get off the medication, they tend to gain the weight again. So hypothyroidism, probably they're told that that is one of the symptoms of being hypothyroid is weight gain. And so then a lot of hucksters and shysters out there that are trying to rip people off generally promote this as something they can do to solve a problem that really can only be solved in some way. You don't withdraw from sugar. It's not that kind of thing. Sugar is not an addiction. It's just overindulgence. You're not addicted to food. If you were addicted to food, you could get off of it and you'd never need it again. And unless you buy into the Aryans, that's just not the case. I have read about the fish oil capsules causing irregularities in the heart rate. I don't recommend any supplements. And so I don't really get much into trying to discourage people. They want to spend money, they can spend money. Americans have the most expensive urine in the world because all you do is pee that stuff out. You don't really need it. Testosterone replacement therapy is the only treatment for clinically low testosterone. Most people that are currently getting the treatment don't have that. And they like the benefits of having a higher testosterone than their own testicles can produce. But that carries risk, and I'm not a fan. behavioral, well, anyway. So I just wanted to touch base. I'd gotten a lot of questions about all kinds of different stuff, but one thing in particular was the hypothyroidism, and I wanted to address it and its relationship to obesity and make sure that people understand if you are overweight, it is most likely not as a result of your hypothyroidism. Excess mass can exceed the thyroid's ability to produce thyroid hormone. So sometimes people who are obese will get hypothyroid, but it's really a secondary problem. And the best way to measure that is with a TSH. And your doctor should be able to do that and appropriately treat that, but you shouldn't be treating it on your own, and you shouldn't be looking for other options. This is an area that's been kind of targeted by fringe medicine, as we can cure all that ails you if we can just give you these desiccated thyroid pills or whatever. But I'm just not a fan, and I recognize that there are limitations in Western medicine. There's no doubt that there are diseases with which the tools that we have to combat them are limited, but hypothyroidism isn't one of them. And so if you have hypothyroidism, you should get your TSH checked regularly, and you should take your thyroid hormone as prescribed by your doctor. It's one of the few pills that you look at it, and there are 100 different doses. It goes from 22.5 to 50 to, it just, it's all over the place. And the reason is because each dose is individualized for the person, and we just don't have the capabilities of determining if you have enough thyroid hormone. So what we do is we look at the TSH, and the TSH that comes from the pituitary tells us if your body is getting feedback that you don't have enough thyroid hormone. It's a more complex treatment than a lot of other medications. If we give you blood pressure medication, we just check your blood pressure. It's pretty straightforward. But this is a little more convoluted because it's a really complex organ. And I am not an endocrinologist. I don't pretend to be an endocrinologist. But for most people, the treatment for hypothyroidism is pretty straightforward. And I really want to thank everybody for coming to my live. It's great to have so many followers. It's great to have so many people checking in. I'm going to do some other impromptu lives over the next week or two, but I won't have any of these scheduled particular topic lives for at least 2 weeks. And you're welcome for the information. I hope it's helpful. I mean, I don't try to get into having a lot of pictures on a white screen and really going into the hormonal feedback and all that stuff, because it's pretty complex. And I have devised a very simple program, Get Fit and Be Lean, and it's based on calisthenics and portion control. I don't eliminate any foods because I'm trying to decrease your inflammation levels, and I don't try to, get people to stop being meat eaters because I think that we need to, save all the animals or something. It's a very straightforward plan of portion control and of regular calisthenics, and it's working for me. I'm pushing 60. If it works for me, it can probably work for almost anybody. And in general, I really enjoy having all the feedback, but of course it is the internet. Keto, I'm going to do a thing on keto in about 3 weeks, and I'm going to go into all of the research on keto and where it came from. You need to understand ketogenic diets were devised for treatment of refractory seizures. Do you have refractory seizures? You probably don't, so you probably don't need a keto diet, but I'll get a lot more in depth, and I'm going to put there is some research on if you look at I never remember which one. Anyway, if you look at my profile on my TikTok account, you'll see a link to the PubMed article bibliography that I use to guide myself in how to teach people about nutrition and how to keep up with the most current published literature, which on keto is not terribly impressive. And so I don't recommend it because I've read the literature and it just doesn't impress me. Plus, no bagels, no pancakes, no biscuits, no noodles, no rice, no tortillas. Give me a break. You're going to eliminate the food basis of, like 80% of the population in the world. So live long and prosper. Thank you very much. And I do believe that a vegetable heavy diet where you're eating 2 servings of raw or steamed vegetables at lunch and 2 servings a day, a diet that's rich in fruits and in health class in high school, dude, they probably were teaching us how to hunt bison in my health class. We were probably trying to take down mastodons. Yeah, I don't really base anything on that. So that was a shorter live than I usually hold, but the fact is that I'm not an expert on hypothyroidism. I just wanted to touch a little base, and I'm gonna tell you how much a serving is of a bunch of different foods in 2 weeks. My next live, that's what I'm going to address. I've gotten some questions about it since I'm always pushing portion control and servings. And so that's going to be my next live. It'll be Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific in 2 weeks. So thank you very much for coming by. I really appreciate all the likes and the little flowers and stuff. All that engagement really helps get the account out there and really helps me kind of boost the profile so that I can carry this message, because I think it's important. Obesity, we just saw it increases your risk of dying from COVID. It increases your risk of all kinds of diseases. And, we kind of swung in one direction where this idea that, we don't want to be ashamed of being fat suddenly becomes, we want to pretend like it's not a problem, and it's a problem. And so I'm going to continue to address it aggressively. And I've lost over 50 pounds, and it's not the be all and end all of life, but it sure makes me feel better, and I can fit into some of my older clothes. Look at the collar on this thing, man. I got all kinds of room. I don't even feel uncomfortable. So check out my other videos. I've got videos going back to January 1st when I started this program, and you can see how I started. It wasn't very impressive. I wasn't out there banging out the reps, and I was still eating, what I like to eat, but I eat a lot less of it now, and I've had to cut my portions down again because of something called thermogenic adaptation, decreasing my resting metabolism. But really enjoying being on TikTok. This is a lot of fun. I see a lot of funny videos. I scroll through in order to kind of keep up with the trends so I can get some stuff out there that will attract some viewers. And that's where it's all about, is kind of promoting the account. So I'm going to continue. I do lives in the morning sometimes when I'm eating breakfast, and you can check out my account, see if I'm around, around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock Eastern time. And thanks so much for all your views and all your comments. Appreciate it.